we had to peer review the analytical results on the backside. And so it is a time-consuming process, but you want it to be substantiated and not just collection of newspaper articles, because that was kind of what people have alleged in the past has been done, and didn't just get into a fight back and forth about who said what when. But with the study that's been designed correctly, you end up with something that can't be refuted. And I think that's the time and effort that's going into it, and it is a time-consuming process. The other thing I would mention that there was another meeting early August in Arlington, and we took comments from folks here in the area. There was another meeting the next day in Denver, and that was on air quality regulations, how the regs should be changed to reflect more urban drilling. Most of the regulations were designed, when people were operating in the Permian Basin, and you could, find more cows than people in some county, and you didn't have the impacts associated with that. And so you had a natural, distance that protected individuals, unless your farm homestead was right there on the property. We now know a lot more. We need to be able to make the changes in the regulations, and that's part of the process that's underway on the federal level on the air side. There's a lot of the process in gas drilling and gas processing and then transmission. Most of the regs are on the transmission side. The big compressor stations, there are more regulations that affect the federal government. There's less, on the processing, and even less at the well head. And part of that was, the states would do a good job, they would have the power to do it. There would be more of those sites, and so it was kind of a division of work that was probably set up back in the 70s. And I think today people have a greater concern because of the urban nature of what's going on, and there are a lot more people very close to these facilities.
Yeah, many years ago that study would have been helpful.
We're not going to go through all that. I just have some photos I wanted to show. My name is Susan Nolan. I live in Bartonville, Texas. Kind of give you a brief background of where I'm coming from. In April 1st of this year, our yard became flooded and we started having these really odd smells from our property. No one would help me, so I had to take it upon myself to become detective, and I traveled across our property to the property behind us and found spewing condensate tanks that actually were so corroded and rusted that the pipes had burst. It was a mess. So April 1st, that was the first time I had called TCEQ. That was before actually I went out and found the tanks. They came to our property and they just stood in the yard and said, we can't smell anything, and they left. They did visit some of the wells, and they said, well, this well is flooded just like your property. The Railroad Commission didn't find a connection. That's not, I know, your jurisdiction. We had a lot of smells between April 1st. By April 25th, we had people who would actually come over and sit in our backyard, and they would break out in nosebleeds. That's how bad it was.
I'm one of those people.
Yes, Deborah Rogers is one of those people. We actually had an international news team, Al Jazeera, because our problem was so bad in the photos that we had. They actually had the crew came out and photographed in our area because Argyle and Bartonville was some of the worst they'd ever seen. June 1st, from April 25th to June 1st, things continued to get really, really bad. And we started having these mysterious bug kills in a certain area of our property. We're downhill. We have 9 wells within a half a mile of our home. I think within 3/4 of a mile, we have 22 wells. We are inundated every which way. When I called about the bug kill, I actually did not say, Tony, that this was a complaint. I don't know if you heard about the bug kill problem I was having or not. but it sounds familiar maybe, but, so I called back when I didn't hear anything from them, and the inspector I talked to on the phone said that Argyle and Bartonville had them running around like a ball in a pinball machine, and they didn't know which way to go because there were so many calls. I never heard anything back about that, about why I was having these mysterious bug kills. And I have to tell you that when we were having these kills, you could go out in the yard and it's not something that you could smell distinctly. It was more of a brain melting experience. You would go back there and it'd feel like just right between your skull, it was heavy. The air was heavy and it made you really almost drowsy and nauseous, but it's not something you could really smell very well. A week later, on June 8th, the smells were really, really bad. I actually saw a TCQ truck on the road. I didn't call them, but I stopped them and I'm like, okay, I haven't heard about my bug kills. Could you please come and do this? Because it's starting to feel like we're living in a science fiction novel. Things like this just shouldn't happen. No one ever got back with me, and I actually flagged them down on the road and talked to them. It was right around then that plants in that area where we were having the bug kill overnight would turn black. It was really strange. It wasn't like they were just dying because of the heat. It would look like they were burned by fire, which is really odd. By June 16th, we were so freaked out that we actually had environmentalists come out and do some really expensive testing that we paid for by ourselves. We never got a canister from TCQ, but we had levels of benzene, ethylbenzene, trimethylbenzene, trichlorine, chloromethane, methane, and xylenes and hydrocarbons. But the worst were sulfur compounds, which I don't believe that TCQ do test for sulfur compounds at all. Okay. Methyl ethyl disulfide, limonene, diethyl trisulfide, dimethyl trisulfide. And we had some unidentifiable sulfur compounds that were like 32 parts per billion, 52 parts per billion, and I believe one of them was 120 parts per billion. Things continued to get worse, and August 7th through then we continued to have bug kills. August 12th, the air was so bad it was like somebody poured acid in our eyes. And I believe this is when we had the Argyle collection facility. They started bringing things in and maybe they were testing. I'm not sure. On August 18th, it was really horrible. Woke up feeling lethargic and disoriented. We walked outside and the road outside of our neighborhood was covered in smoke, and it was so bad that in our small town, my husband had to take his bike to the Motor Speedway to ride because the air at the Texas Motor Speedway was better than it was in Argyle and Bartonville. We actually had the inspector, he came over to our house and I showed him a video from the blessing unit that was taken by another Argyle resident, and he was shocked. He's like, I've never seen anything like it. He did leave me a canister that day. And then as he was leaving, he says, oh, are you the one that had the bug kills? Yes, I've never heard anything about that. He mentioned something that maybe, I'm sorry, I'll go faster. There was a leaking gas pipeline. He would check into it. I never heard anything back. This is Williams who's doing this. Whatever they were doing that caused so much smoke, it was unbelievable. They did it again the next night. August 21st, this is just a short amount of time from April 1st to August 21st. It just gets worse. That's when we started having bloody nose. The area starts smelling like rotten eggs. I mentioned the odors to a police officer that was on the road, actually a Denton County police officer, because I was out riding my bike and I got so dizzy I had to get off my bike and stop. And I filed reports with these as well. I did learn you have to say it's official complaint, because if you don't, then I don't know what happens. I guess you just talk to somebody on the phone. August 26th, woke up with a headache. This was a really, really horrible, scary day. I felt worse. The entire left side of my body had cramped. My throat was sore on the left side, and the left side of my face looked like it had melted off. It was really odd. September 11th, I rode by the Argyle collection facility, which has, some really giant 3,200 horsepower compressors, I believe. I believe there's 24 tanks, a glycol dehydrator, some thermal oxidizers, maybe an amine treater. I'm not sure if that's the official name of it or not. I don't know if it was functional or not, but it smelled very sweet. It smelled like gas. I called TCQ. The inspector called me back, and he said that what I smelled was decomposing tree roots. September 15th, I used my canister that they had left me, and they picked it up. It was really windy that day. Nothing was above levels. On September 23rd, I get a really bad respiratory infection, and it lasts for 3 weeks. It's awful. And it coincides with this really horrible burning smell that everyone in our neighborhood and around the Argyle Collection Field facility is smelling. And I have a nosebleed. I wake up in the morning. I can actually go out there, and it's going to be this burn smell. A lot of people have been reporting that. On October 6th, I woke up, felt okay, did carpool early for the girls' volleyball practice. I get in the parking lot, and the parking lot at the school is full of smoke. They've started fracking the well, the first of 36, which are going in by the school. It smells like pesticides and chemical burns. I think this is the first time that a lot of the parents are realizing that this is really serious, what's happening in our community. I filed a complaint with TCQ. He said he didn't smell anything at the school by the time they got there, but actually they could smell it on the website. I don't know what happened. Driving home from dropping off the girls who were practicing volleyball there, and all the kids were actually in the band parking lot practicing in this cloud of pesticide smelling smoke. I had a nosebleed again. October 7th, another nosebleed, scratchy throat. There was a fog covering Frenchtown Road from Jeter to 377. And the same thing has happened on October 11th in the school parking lot. This time it was in the evening. I guess one of the reasons why I'm bringing all this up is how many people does this have to happen to before anything is done? How many people have to be sick? How many kids have to practice in a cloud of smoke before you can find anything that's wrong?
The one thing I'll say, the first answer to the question is that I hope the answer will be no. I'd rather, when you got to the point about the lesson here, making me the lesson here, I would like to be able to answer questions about what happened there. And so I'm going to try to do that tomorrow, gather information myself, and then answer those questions. But in general, I want to point out a couple of things. One, our investigators, our policy right now, and we're trying to make sure we're leaning on the side of safe. It should not be required that you have to say complaint. It should not be required. The way we respond to the investigators, and I know in the after hours complaints, I and my area section manager receive those direct. And if it's related to one, it should authority gas to respond. So it does not require the word complaint. If anybody is doing it, I want to offer you and everyone here today an opportunity to give me a call direct, because that is not our process. Our process is that if you call, if you email, if you make us aware that you have a concern with oil and gas activity, we're going to respond. And even this was like one point I made, and that's not even over. We don't need the word over in that notification. We're going to respond. And even our nuisance policy itself is that we're talking about what can we do to make ourselves more transparent here. One of the things we're talking about is dropping the word over, because it is not about over. It is about that emission and coming off of a particular facility. It doesn't have to be oil and gas. And the concentration duration causes that effect, and it doesn't require that you smell for that to take place. Yes, we are in the process of trying to make sure all of our investigators are aware of that and they're operating in that manner. When that is not happening, we want to correct that. Back to the situation specifically, if there are things that are going on like that, I talked about it earlier, we do have a challenge of having to prove that up. One way that we can prove it up is through our monitoring. The other way is through not necessarily sample collecting on the board, but if you're logging those things in a manner that seems like you're doing it, if you're keeping that log, you are willing to be a part of the evidence. We can use that information.